seventh team that I'll be reviewing from the 2026 season of the IPL is the Sunrisers Hyderabad, who obviously, despite finishing third, they ended up getting fourth spot at the end because they lost the eliminator to Rajasthan. And I think Sunrisers Hyderabad, I think they did play, I think, better than what I would have expected in terms of their bowling attack, especially. I think batting में तो हमेशा से you could see that they had the, you know, they are a team that can have that explosiveness in that batting on pitches which suit them, and I think because of that and because the pitches were mostly high scoring, I think that suited them really well. But I think bowling wise also, I think they would have not done so well if they would have definitely would have continued with Harshal Patel and Unadkat, which they I think realized, first few matches they were playing with them and they were not winning. Three matches they lost in the first four, and then they realized that that is not going to work, and they decided to kind of go to younger bowlers, and I think that really helped them when they shifted to say a Praful Hinge, Sakib Hussain, and I think they found a couple of good bowlers in them, and I think that is the reason why they were there in one of the teams that did qualify. I think definitely batting always top order जो है वो obviously हमेशा से you knew that it was strong, but I think bowling is the reason why they, I think, were not really a team that was probably going to qualify if they would have continued with the bowling attack that they were starting the tournament with. I think that gradually they realized that it's not going to work with them, and I think when they went to a few young bowlers, I think that created some spark in that bowling attack, and I think they definitely were benefited from that, and I think that is why they ended up qualifying. Obviously, a lot of their players are go big or go home, and I think going home happens when it's big games for all of them. And I think that is what happened against Rajasthan. I think Rajasthan के against जब target बढ़ा आया तब सबके know वीकनेसेस एक्सपोज इजीली हो गए, एंड जो पहले भी हो चुके हैं बिग मैचेस में प्लेयर्स लाइक अभिषेक शर्मा, दो ones who really have not been able to put up performances when it has mattered. I think that is what happened. I think 2 साल पहले भी he was someone who did not could not contribute टूर्नामेंट में बहुत रन बना के, फिर जब जरूरत पड़ी तब he was not, that's why they lost the final also, that the batting that was so good and had worked in their favor, that took them to the final, was the one that collapsed, and I think they lost. So I think this time as well, I think I feel like the same thing. Bowling ने अच्छी bowling तो नहीं की एलिमिनेटर में, but I think टारगेट इतना बड़ा होने के बाद जब बैटिंग को एक अच्छा चांस था टू शो दैट इतनी बैटिंग आपके पास है, जो आप बोलते हो कि बैटिंग अपने बॉलर कितना भी खाए, वी हैव द बैटिंग दैट कैन चेज इट डाउन और स्कोर दोस काइंड ऑफ बिग स्कोर्स, वो जब प्रेशर आता है तब सबके दिख जाते हैं कितना कौन कितना इसमें है. And I think that is what happened, but I think they'll still be happy with the fact that they qualified. I think they were definitely on paper not like a top two team, but I think so ending up with 16 points would be something that they'll be happy about, I think. But overall, I think it was a pretty average campaign. I think qualifying obviously is a great thing, that's obviously there, but I think uh, I just feel like there was a little bit of they played well to the conditions that suit them, and I think that benefited them to kind of get through to the playoffs. And I'll talk about the players who did well for them. I think Heinrich Klaasen was one of the players who was very consistent for them. I think game after game, game after game after game, he was really contributing really well for them, getting those every game he was getting 30 plus. I think he rarely had a failure, and I think he definitely slowed down a little. I think he was not the explosive Klaasen that we've seen over the years, but I think he still became a reliable player in that middle order for them, and I think that was he was probably one of their best players. Ishan Kishan had a great season. I think he obviously, since he had been dropped from the Indian side, he's really done really well. I think from playing for Jharkhand, winning the Syed Mushtaq Ali as captain, and then getting a spot into the Indian T20 World Cup team and contributing there as well, and now in the IPL as well. At the start, he was the captain of the Sunrisers, and I think I think there definitely was a lot of positives for him. Abhishek Sharma had, against some teams, I think he ended up getting quite a few runs, and I think he had a pretty good season. I mean, I don't want to get into the negatives of it. I'm just talking about what good they did, and I think bowling where there was Ishan Malinga, Sakib Hussain, like I said, I think he's a very good, talented bowler. Praful Hinge had a few good games, I think, and a couple of youngsters, spinners, I think Harsh Dubey and Shivang Kumar, who did bowl really well for them, and I think those were probably the positives. I think Head was not as good as they would have wanted him to be. And then there were a few players I think who disappointed. I think Nitish Reddy was also pretty fine. I think he had his moments, but overall, I think he bowled way more than he was bowling with the past. And I think that is definitely a step for him towards, getting the backup role to Hardik Pandya in the Indian team. And I think that is obviously a good thing because he started to bowl more. And There were a few. I think the finisher was issue there. I think coming to the weaknesses or the players who did not do well, I think the biggest area of concern was the finishing. I think they tried a few players, Salil Arora, Smaran Ravichandran, Aniket Verma, along with Nitish Reddy there. I think they were trying these players, at 5, 6, 7, but I think none of them really. I think Salil Arora was probably the better of them. I mean, obviously Nitish Reddy had, you know, better all-round performances, but just as a pure batter, I think Salil Arora did make a few contributions. Aniket Verma from being, one of the players who really had, did a lot of, I think, had a good few innings in the last season. I think this year he was quite a disappointment. And then they shifted to Smaran Ravichandran, who I don't think had even one good inning. And I think that is an area where they struggled. I think Liam Livingstone को इतने पैसे देके खरीदा था जो एक बहुत ही मैंने जैसे बहुत बार बोला है it was a terrible auction strategy to buy someone like Liam Livingstone who has year after year proven that he is not good enough to play in any team in the IPL, and I think that happened with them as well when they bought him for that kind of a fun amount, and then he just played a couple of games and did not really contribute. And I think the finishing was an issue, and I think yeah, I think that is what I feel, and I think maybe if they would have started with these young players at the young bowlers at the start of the tournament, maybe they could have had a better chance at getting into the top two because even though they are the only team who has ever done winning the title from the eliminator, I think it is a very tough task to, finish third or fourth and then go on to win the trophy because it takes a lot. I think winning three back-to-back matches against all the top teams is quite a task, and I think it always was going to be tough when they went into the eliminator. I think they were in contention to qualify in top two, but I think once they got third, I think it looked like they were a team that was at some point going to get knocked out. And yeah, I think I'll start with the players, and I think with Abhishek Sharma, I'll start. I think Abhishek Sharma 563 runs at an average of 40 and 204 का strike rate, which is I think really great. I think 200 के strike rate के ऊपर से मैंने बहुत बार बोला है batsmen who score at a strike rate of 200 plus openers specifically. I think that is a very big boost for the rest of the batting order, and that is what his role was. I think going and taking on the bowlers in the power play, and I think he did that. But I think again the same thing that has been the story with Abhishek Sharma is that against weaker opponents or against teams or bowling attacks who are struggling, he did score a lot of runs. But again, if you go and look into his game by game stats, especially like if I go and see against RCB, the first game that he played, he got out on 7. Then Rajasthan Royals, a golden duck, two ball duck in the eliminator where it mattered the most, pressure situation, good opponent, two balls zero. Then GTK against the other team that qualified 6 of 4. So he like in the matches which the opponent or the bowling attack was better than the others is where he struggled, which is the case with him always. I think जो ऐसे बकवास से बॉलिंग अटैक है उनके अगेंस्ट बहुत अच्छे से रन बनाए जैसे कि सीएसके के में मैथ्यू शॉट के अगेंस्ट बहुत रन मारे पार्ट टाइम बॉलर या फिर he got 100 against a struggling Delhi bowling attack जिसमें they did not their bowlers clearly like we talked about in the Delhi video were not working and उनके अगेंस्ट रन बहुत बनाए तो यही एक कहानी उसकी रही है बहुत अच्छा टाइमिंग है या फिर बैट स्विंग अच्छा है इसकी वजह से ही इज समवन हु इज वेरी डेंजरस if you don't bowl right in the right way to him in the power play, and I think that is what happens when the bowling attack is not so good. I think bowling attack जब अच्छा हो जाता है और उसको तुम उसके उसका अगर दिन चलता है तो वो बहुत लकी शॉट से भी बहुत रन बना लेता है बट अगर तुम उसको एक कंसिस्टेंटली एक अच्छे लाइन से बॉलिंग करोगे तो ही विल स्ट्रगल एंड दैट इज व्हाट हैपेंड अगेंस्ट गुड टीम्स एंड गुड बॉलर्स एंड प्रेशर प्रेशर आने के बाद तो कब खेला है वो बंदा आई मीन पूरा I mean that is something that he has done over the years whenever he's played his choke in bigger games, and that is something that has continued. I think again, when you expect someone who's getting 560 runs, you expect from them कि जब जरूरत ज्यादा पड़ती है जो एक ऐसा प्लेयर है जो नंबर 1 रैंक्ड बैट्समैन है आईसीसी रैंकिंग्स में T20 में इंटरनेशनल क्रिकेट में इंडिया का ओपनर है वर्ल्ड कप खेल के वर्ल्ड कप जीता हुआ प्लेयर है इवन दो ही डिड नॉट contribute much to that World Cup success. You have he's someone who's played at that level तो आप बहुत obviously expectation रखते हो and especially if he's in good form form किसी का खराब चल रहा है तो you see that उसके नहीं चल रहा है अभी तो maybe it is a off time for him, but if you score 563 runs in the group stage you expect something from him in a big chase, right? Like you want him to give you that start even if he won't get a big inning, you want him to at least give you like a 40-50 run cameo at the start in the power play जो एक tempo set करे क्योंकि आपके पास एक middle order अच्छा था, and I think that is what they would have expected from him जो नहीं हुआ, and I think that is something that time and time again has happened with him, and that is something that continued this season as well. So I think Abhishek Sharma overall आप देखोगे तो it was quite a good season, but I mean when it matters अगर तुम नहीं खेलते हो तो क्या फायदा है? And I think that is what I feel about him. He bowled one game as well, but nothing. Not I think bowled quite a few games. But one over each, 1-2 overs max. I think I did not nothing much with the ball. And yeah, that is what I feel about Abhishek Sharma. Nothing. I mean, कितने रन तो वो बना लेगा अब तक इतना अच्छा तो प्लेयर बन गया है वो जो पावर प्ले में अच्छे से मार सकता है बट जब जरूरत पड़ती है तब इफ starts to score is when it really will be, that you can really appreciate more about him. And I think that is what I feel about him. And we'll come to Travis Head. I think Travis Head, since, the time where he had become that dangerous player, जो across formats आप बोलो इंडिया के against World Test Championship में man of the match was, World Test Championship final May 2023 they won that. He was the man of the match. 23 का ODI World Cup final में getting that 100. And then again, obviously in the T20 World Cup as well, India beat Australia in the semis, but he was the one who got, not the semis, sorry, the game before that. He was the one who got, 60 something runs against India and was the player who would have, probably taken the game away from India. So I think that kind of a player that he was a couple of years back, he definitely isn't anymore. I think there's been a big dip in that. And I think even then he ended up getting 410 runs at an, strike rate of 170. But I think it was not a campaign that, you usually see, and especially जो pitches पे ये लोग batting करते हैं. जिस तरीके के pitches हैदराबाद में भी होते हैं या फिर whatever overall the kind conditions of the pitches that is there overall, and especially because these people play half of their games at that particular venue, which is a batsman's paradise. And I think over there you would want him to do better than this. I think 410 runs is not bad, pretty above average, you could even say. But I think just a couple of 50s, so बहुत बड़ा impact नहीं था. I think starts देने में इतना जो वो player जो जाना जाता है कि he again is someone, like Abhishek is known to give good stats. That did not happen, I think, and just a couple of 50s, 410 runs, not a great season for him. And again, when it mattered, he could not do it against Rajasthan in that eliminator. I think बहुत प्रेशर था obviously दोनों सब पे ही, बड़ा टारगेट है, बट अगर आप ऐसे बैटिंग लाइनअप लेके बोस्ट करते हो कि हम 300 मार सकते हैं, तो ये चेस करने के लिए तो यू शुड बी रेडी, एंड नॉट लाइक राजस्थान बॉलिंग अटैक इज सम लेजेंडरी बॉलिंग अटैक फिल्ड विद ग्रेट बॉलर्स. देयर बॉलिंग अटैक वाज आल्सो स्ट्रगलिंग. तो आई थिंक उसमें आई थिंक एक्सपोज हो गए उनकी बैटिंग जब इतना बड़ा टारगेट है ओवरऑल, नॉट जस्ट वन प्लेयर, बट दैट इज व्हाट हैपेंड. And I think that is what I think. And I'll come to Ishan Kishan. I think Kishan had a great season. I think 602 runs, 600 ka season for a number three. I think it is a very good season. Strike rate was also good, 182 ka strike rate. 650 he scored in those 15 innings, and I think he really contributed a lot for them. Captain bhi tha, I think, at the start of the campaign, and I think once he was the captain, initially they were really struggling, but I think he had started to get his, find his rhythm as a captain, and I think they had started to win till Cummins came and took over. Obviously, with Cummins as well, they not like they started to lose again. But I think Ishan Kishan had found his, footing as a captain for SRH, and I think he'll definitely be happy to, lead a IPL franchise. I think he's become a very good player, I think, over the period of time. But I think again, ऐसे ही है कि जो थोड़े से मैचेस में जहाँ पे they would have wanted more contributions, it didn't happen. He ended up getting 33 of 11 in that, eliminator game where he was really the one who was taking on the bowlers. But it looked like he was losing partners from the other end and was not really going to, be able to last as long as, he usually would, because the target was too big and he had to keep taking risks. So I think वो obviously did not happen. He could not get those runs. But I think वही एक थोड़ा सा ओवर कॉन्फिडेंस सा एक फील आ जाता है उसमें. I think that was something that was there before in him, and then you thought that maybe because of that entire scene where he was dropped from the Indian team, lost his contract, and had to really do all the hard work to get back to the level that he is now at, you would think that he would be a little more humble. And I think जो चेन्नई के फैंस के अगेंस्ट ये करके जो किया है कि मतलब आपने कितना उखाड़ा है अपने करियर में और आप किसके अगेंस्ट ज्यादा बोल रहे हो, all these things obviously will they will haunt him, because now it's a big fan base that you have taken a challenge on, and they will be looking to get back at you in any moment possible. And I think it increases the viewership and all of that, and all controversial things are what run the IPL, and I think that obviously helps. But I think just from a cricketing standpoint, that was not really a very good thing to do against a team that is bigger than you. They've won more. I think someone made that joke as well. I mean, I don't want to get into jokes and biasness here, but I think जो I think एक प्लेयर से आप एक्सपेक्ट करते हो जो इंडिया के लिए खेलता है, दैट इज नॉट समथिंग यू एक्सपेक्ट. एंड आई थिंक pretty, and for what reason I don't know. So that is what I feel. But again, overall as a player, I think he had a good season. 600 run season, I think, phenomenal. That is him. And I think then I'll come to their most consistent player, the highest run getter in the season, and that was Heinrich Klaasen. You would not expect, I think, इतनी अच्छी top 3 होने के बाद उनको outscore किया है Klaasen ने, which tells you a lot. I think Klaasen was batting at a strike rate lower than all three of these, just a 160 strike rate at and 624 runs at an average of 48 in the 15 innings that he played, and he had like 650s. But if you count more than 30 plus scores, there is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 50 plus scores in 30 plus scores in those 15 innings. That tells you a lot. I think it was an incredible campaign for Heinrich Klaasen, and a lot of those consistency was riding with the fact that he was not taking that many chances. He was not becoming the pinch hitting middle order player that he was known to be. I think he was playing a more understanding the conditions, understanding the target, playing accordingly, and all of that. And I think that really helped him get a lot of runs. I think he was a little slow than what they would have wanted, but I think to get 600 runs at a strike rate of 160 is still, I mean, incredible. So I think just consistency से वो खेल रहा था. I think that really helped them get into the uh, you know knockouts. And I think again, I don't want to be critical. You get those runs and all of that happens, but I think इतने रन बनाने के बाद आपसे उम्मीद तो है कि आप और कुछ करोगे जब टाइम आता है. एवरी गेम बिफोर टिल दैट पॉइंट 14 इनिंग्स में अगर इस बंदे ने 11 बार 30 प्लस रन बनाए तो यू वांट हिम टू गेट दोस 30 प्लस रन एटलीस्ट इन दैट गेम जब मैटर करता है. एंड दैट डिड नॉट हैपन अगेन. आई थिंक बहुत बड़ा टारगेट है एंड नॉकआउट में प्रेशर होता है, ये सब होता है, बट आई थिंक यू आर अ टीम दैट इज मेड एंड स्ट्रक्चर्ड इन अ वे दैट यू आर रेडी टू स्कोर आउट स्कोर द ओपोनेंट. क्योंकि आपकी बॉलिंग अटैक इतनी अच्छी है नहीं जो आप ऐसे बोल सकते हो कि बैट्समैन का पूरा दिन गया तो विल डिपेंड ऑन द बॉलिंग. आई थिंक योर बैटिंग लाइनअप इज योर मेन स्ट्रेंथ. एंड आई थिंक विद दैट यू आर एक्सपेक्टेड टू डू मोर देन व्हाट दे डिड आई थिंक इन दैट गेम. आई थिंक बैटिंग से ही यही तो बोला जाता है कि अगर ये बॉलिंग अटैक हम खा सकते हैं 250 तो हम बना भी सकते हैं उतना उससे ऊपर. एंड आई थिंक दैट इज व्हाट आई थिंक डिड नॉट हैपन फॉर देम इन द गेम दैट मैटर्ड. And I'll come to the middle lower order. These were the four players. I think pretty consistent. Travis said a little disappointing, but I think apart from him, all three of them did end up getting quite a few runs. I'll come to Nizish Reddy. I think all-rounder का role इस बार ज़्यादा मिला उसको. I think इसके पहले he would occasionally bowl, more of a batter that they were using in that middle order. I think they made it clear that he's not someone who's batting at four. I think लास्ट ईयर उसको नंबर 4 पे बैटिंग के लिए यूज किया था, बट आई थिंक दे रियलाइज कि वो एक अच्छा पोजीशन उसके लिए शायद से है नहीं. एंड दैट इज व्हाई दे स्टार्टेड टू यूज हिम मोर लाइक अ नंबर 6-7. एंड आई थिंक दैट probably helped him. He ended up getting 302 runs batting lower down the order, pretty good, at a strike rate of almost 172. So I think he was pretty consistently bowling than what you have seen in the past. And I think every game that he played, he bowled, and I think he ended up picking also a lot of wickets, 8 wickets, for a all rounder. I think that is pretty fine. I think at a economy itni अच्छी है थी नहीं, but I think he is still finding himself as an all rounder. I think I have been pretty critical about the fact that इतना अच्छा बैटिंग भी नहीं करता है, इतना अच्छा बॉलिंग भी नहीं करता है, बट आई थिंक ही हैज काइंड ऑफ इम्प्रूव्ड अ लॉट फ्रॉम व्हाट ही वाज बिफोर. एंड आई थिंक बॉलिंग में भी और बैटिंग में भी काफी ज्यादा कंट्रीब्यूशंस हुए पहले से. नॉट ग्रेट, बट आई थिंक अ प्रीटी डिसेंट कैंपेन फ्रॉम नीतीश रेड्डी. आई थिंक फॉर द ओनली ऑलराउंडर काइंड ऑफ दैट दे हैव इन दैट टीम. And that will bring me to all those Indian three players that they, kind of shuffled around. Salil Arora was the one who was consistently playing, and I'll talk about him first. He ended up getting 156 runs, but at a strike rate of 160. I think कैमियो से खेलने को मिले जब कभी भी मोर देन आई थिंक एक ही इनिंग जो लास्ट में एलिमिनेटर में बैटिंग करने को मिली जब 21 बॉल्स ही प्लेड. उसके पहले द हाईएस्ट नंबर ऑफ बॉल्स ही हैड प्लेड इन एन इनिंग वाज 13. तो इतनी ज्यादा बैटिंग नहीं मिली बिकॉज ही वाज प्लेइंग मोर एज अ फिनिशर. एंड आई थिंक इनके टॉप फोर ही बहुत से रन बना रही थी. कोई ना कोई एक दो बैट्समैन तो रन बना ही रहे थे और इसकी वजह से ही उनकी बैटिंग अच्छी चल रही थी. तो आई थिंक लोअर ऑर्डर के लिए इतना काम नहीं था. बट जब टॉप ऑर्डर का कोलैप्स आया, तब जब लोअर ऑर्डर थोड़ी एक्सपोज हो गई, तब आई थिंक सबके लग गए थोड़े. तो आई थिंक स्टिल आई थिंक pretty average campaign for someone playing their first season. So I think Salil Arora was that. And I think I'll become to Aniket Verma. I think a lot of uh, you know talk was there about him. I think last season he was pretty good. I think he played quite a few good innings. And I think this season also he started well against RCB. I think 43 of 18 बनाया पहले इनिंग में, but उसके बाद काइंड ऑफ मतलब इतना कुछ हुआ ही नहीं. पूरा एक डिप ही आ गया फॉर्म में एंड ही struggled a lot. I think 79 runs only in those 8 innings that he batted. Uh, Average was just 13. Strike rate was also not that great, 146 for someone batting lower down the order. And I think after that he really struggled and to a point where he was dropped. तो आई थिंक तो थोड़ा सा एक एक्सपेक्टेड था कि ये बंदा एक है मेन टीम में. एंड they have probably the seven players that I've talked about till now will be their top seven. And I think Aniket Verma, because he struggled, they had to kind of shift from him and go to Smaran Ravichandran, who also had quite made a reputation from domestic cricket. And I think uh, he got a few chances toward the end of the tournament. I don't know why he kept on getting chances. I think I still would have backed Aniket Verma. After he saw quite a few innings from Smaran Ravichandran, which were pretty poor. I think just 4 innings he got to bat in and just 19 runs in them. Six ka average that is, and at a strike rate of just 76. So I think no, not even a double digit score in any of those 4 innings. So I don't know why they backed him. I think I did not really see any spark in his batting, but I think I don't know what potential they saw, and they probably gave him some opportunities, but nothing much to say. And yeah, and that will bring me to Liam Livingston. I think Livingston ऐसा player है जो मुझे समझ नहीं आता कैसे अभी भी 13 करोड़ जैसे प्राइस के लिए खरीदा जाता है. I don't know why they go for such a player. I think I said it in the preview of the SRH team as well. If they are planning to play him in the 11 as a mainstay, they are going to struggle a lot. And I think because they did not, they did well and qualified. आई थिंक इसको अगर खिलाते तो आप कमिंस और मलिंगा दोनों को नहीं खिला पाते. कमिंस बीइंग द कैप्टन यू हैड टू प्रॉब्ली ड्रॉप वन ऑफ द अदर्स. ईशान मलिंगा को शायद से ड्रॉप करना पड़ता बिकॉज ट्रेविस हेड और क्लासन तो आपके मेन प्लेयर हो जाते. एंड लिविंगस्टन और कमिंस लेके आप फिर मलिंगा को नहीं खिला पाते जो आपका हाईएस्ट विकेट टेकर बना टुवर्ड द एंड. ओवरऑल आपका ही वाज योर हाईएस्ट विकेट टेकर. तो आई थिंक लिविंगस्टन को नहीं खिला के उन्होंने सही किया. आई थिंक 2 इनिंग उसको मिले, 15 ही रन बना के एट अ स्ट्राइक रेट ऑफ जस्ट 60. तो बहुत बड़ा स्ट्रगल था उसका. एक ही इनिंग वो अच्छी उसको लंबी खेलने को मिली. 20 बॉल ही प्लेड अगेंस्ट एलएसजी and just scored 14 runs, and then against CSK 5 ball 1. That is all he got to do. They did not bowl in the entire campaign. And I think 13 करोड़ के लिए बहुत ही मतलब कुछ हुआ ही नहीं, चांस ही नहीं मिले और जगह भी नहीं थी टीम में. तो आई थिंक अगर यही पैसों से आप कोई इंडियन फिनिशर के पास अगर जाते तो यू कुड हैव प्रॉब्ली गॉटन मच मोर. आई थिंक एक दो तीन प्लेयर अच्छे मिल जाते आपको शायद से 13 करोड़ में. जो कार्तिक शर्मा सीएसके में जो गया तब इतना जो सेलिब्रेट किया कि उसको 14 करोड़ तक हम लेके गए हंस के, दैट इडियट काव्या मरिट. तो आपने 13 करोड़ पे लिविंगस्टोन को डाल के 2 मैचेस खिला के, दैट इज वेर योर रियल वीकनेसेस वर. So I think that got exposed, and I think I feel like that is definitely something that they'll probably want to release Liam Livingston now and get that amount into the auction. I mean, pretty clear. And yeah, that is what I feel about him. And I think I'm done with all the batters, and I'll come with the bowling attack. I think I'll start with the couple of spinners that played. I think Shivang Kumar and Harsh Dupe, two players ऐसे खेले. Uh, Obviously came with a reputation. Harsh Dupe has been around in the domestic circuit for quite a while. Shivang Kumar I think had a good season. So in the domestic circle last year, and I think because of that they were definitely, I think, were the ones who were expected to be in the 11. I think they had Zishan Ansari, they had that Cranes Fulatra, they're the other options that were there, but they knew who they wanted to stick with. I think Harsh Dubey के साथ start किया, फिर शिवांग कुमार के पास गए, and then they few games played both of them together. I think maybe it could have worked if both played, but I think they were really heavily reliant on their fast bowling attack. चार fast bowlers plus नीतीश रेड्डी ऐसे 5 bowlers, fast bowlers लेके एक spinner के साथ they were going in their bowling attack. Maybe they could have tried getting another, both of them playing more. I think starting के matches में वैसे किया, but toward the end they had decided कि only Shivang Kumar was the one that they wanted to play with. Shivang Kumar ended up, getting 9 wickets in 13 games, 9.62 economy, pretty average kind of a season for someone playing for the first time. I think he had quite a few games where he was, slightly economical also. In a few games, he picked up some important wickets at important times. So for them, and I think they'll be pretty happy with what he did. I think for a first season. Uh, Also with the fact that एक कोई spin partner ज्यादा matches में नहीं था और their bowling attack was not really revolving around his spin bowling. एक ज्यादा over, no, I don't think he bowled many times 4 overs. I think दो तीन over ही उसको मिल रहे थे, ज्यादा पूरा तो full quota he was not bowling. And I think that they'll be happy with that. I think 9 wickets I think in 13 games is pretty fine for someone who's not consistently bowling those kinds of 4 overs every game. And I'll talk about Harsh Dubey, who just played 8 games and picked up 8 wickets in that. Economy of 10.36, slightly higher than Shivang Kumar, but I think he also had 2-3 matches where he had his moments, and I think that is what I feel about him. I think दो एक ऐसे youngsters ऐसे मिले जो अभी हर्ष दुबे इंडिया के लिए भी खेल रहा है, तो someone who has been around in the domestic circuit for quite a while. So I think for the future they have found, I think Indian spinner होना बहुत जरूरी होता है, because एक foreign spinner को अगर आप लेते हो तो फिर एक एक foreign fast bowler आपको generally चाहिए होता है. And kind of looking at what the combination or composition of this team is and the foreign players that are there, I think Cummins और Malinga तो ऐसे players है, और Head और क्लासन जो बैटिंग में है, तो स्पिनर फॉरेन तो लेके भी ये खिला नहीं पाएंगे. एंड आई थिंक बिकॉज ऑफ दैट फाइंडिंग गुड इंडियन स्पिनर्स वाज इंपॉर्टेंट. दैट वाज नॉट द केस लास्ट ईयर. दे हैड राहुल चाहा जिसको उन्होंने रिलीज किया था, एंड आई थिंक spin bowling was not really good last year. So I think finding some good spinners is something that I think they did, and I think that is something that worked for them, and they'll be happy with that going into the next year as well. And that'll bring me to the captain. I think Pat Cummins, पहले बहुत से matches he missed due to injury. World Cup also he had missed, I think, and because of that, I think that injury took him some time to come back, and he just ended up playing 8 games. पहले 7 matches, half of the group stage he missed. Then he came pretty fine. I think 8 matches, 8 wickets at an economy of 9.59. I think not a great campaign for him. Especially toward the end जब important matches थोड़े से आ गए थे, in that game against RR, बहुत ही उसको मारा I think सूर्यवंशी ने भी, and I think 64 in his 4 overs in that wicketless spell of his in the eliminator that they lost. So I think they would have expected more from Pat Cummins, the bowler, than what they got. I think for someone who is experienced, I think T20 में he's not the best. I think his better formats are definitely Test followed by ODI, and then T20 will be third. So I think T20 में bowling तो इतनी खास उसकी है नहीं, but I think captaincy की वजह से he is someone who really is rated, and along with the fact that he is someone who can be a little handy toward the end with the bat. तो आई थिंक bowling तो इतनी अच्छी नहीं हुई फॉर समवन एक uh, it's not the case every single time, but you just get to play four foreigners, and that you want those four foreigners to make maximum impact. And I think because they are international players who more often than not will be stars, because इतने फॉरेन प्लेयर्स तो खरीदे नहीं जाते, तो स्टार प्लेयर्स ही ज्यादा से ज्यादा खरीदे जाते हैं, तो यू एक्सपेक्ट मोर contributions from them, which did not happen with Cummins. I think he was looking a little out of shape. I think injury की वजह से maybe coming back, his lines and lengths were not really consistent. He had, I think, a couple of good innings still. I think good, uh, couple of good spells. I think CSK के against भी 3 for 28, and I think then Punjab के against 2 for 34, GT के against 1 for 20. So दो तीन matches का spell बीच में अच्छा हुआ. But I think toward the end again it tapered off. I think he won't be happy with that, but still a pretty average campaign for him. I think captaincy बहुत लोग बोलेंगे कि जरूरत थी क्या, people were actually saying that maybe just continue with Ishan Kishan, because एक आप बीच में से ही captaincy change कर देते हो, even though it was always the plan कि आपका main captain तो पैट कमिंस ही था, वो नहीं था इसलिए किशन को बनाया था. But I think is it needed to just change the captain? I don't think that played a part in wherever they finished. I think they did still pretty fine in Cummins's captaincy as well. So I think nothing like that is what I feel. So yeah, I think that is what I feel about Pat Cummins, and then I'll come to their all the other fast bowlers. I think they started with Unadkat and Harshal Patel in the start of the campaign. I think जयदेव उनादकट को अभी भी कैसे खरीदते हैं या रिटेन whatever they करते हैं मेरे को नहीं समझता अभी भी. In 2026 how is जयदेव उनादकट still playing in IPL? And एक बैकअप के लिए तो मैं समझ सकता हूँ कि शायद से एक एक्सपीरियंस सा बॉलर है, maybe he'll help the younger bowlers who's because he's been around. But I think for someone who's going to be, if he's someone who are considering to be a starting bowler for you, it's never going to work. आई थिंक पहले चार मैचेस में उसको बैक किया और चारों मैचेस में ही डिड नॉट डू रियली वेल. आई थिंक चार मैच में चार विकेट तो लिए, बिकॉज ऐसा ही बॉलर है जो एक बैट्समैन इसको मारने जाके इसको विकेट मिल जाते हैं, एंड ही हैज दैट कटर व्हिच एट टाइम्स वर्क्स. तो आई थिंक बट इकोनॉमी ऑफ ऑलमोस्ट 11, तो पहले चार मैचेस में तीन हारे थे, वही चार मैच में ये खेला है. एंड yeah, I think, and the match in which he bowled well is the match that they won, and apart from that, तीन मैच में खराब bowling करके they lost. And yeah, I think after that he was dropped. They found a couple of young bowlers who replaced him and Harshal Patel. So I think they found what they wanted. And I think Harshal Patel के साथ भी वही, he also played four games, all the three games that they lost in the first four he played, and then one beach May, and I think, sorry, he played five games, and then the last group stage match as well. So and for someone who's known to be a wicket taker, दो बार पर्पल कैप जीत चुका है, पांचों मैचेस में he went wicketless. Economy was also like Unadkat, almost 11, 10.83 की economy के साथ. So I think again very disappointing from him. I did not expect much better from him, but he was looking like he was the main Indian fast bowler in that team. क्योंकि जयदेव उनादकट और ये दोनों ही सिर्फ ऐसे बॉलर थे जो पता थे. शिवम भी एक था उनके टीम में जो रूल आउट हो गया अनफॉर्चुनेटली, and that it looked like Harshal Patel was the lead bowler, especially because Pat Cummins was also not available in the first few games. And I think that they'll be happy that प्रफुल्ल हिंगे और सकीब हुसैन एक दो ऐसे यंग बॉलर्स मिले उनको जो इन दोनों को रिप्लेस कर पाए. And yeah, that is what about Harshal Patel. And I think then I'll come to those Indian fast bowlers. I think Praful Inge or Sakib Hussain, unko Rajasthan wale match mein they brought, I think after in the first four matches having lost three, they wanted to change things up, and inko leke aaye. Both ended up picking four wickets each in that game. Particularly I think Rajasthan के against, एक राजस्थान जो ऐसी टीम थी जो पहले चारों मैचेस आई थिंक जीत चुकी थी, उनके अगेंस्ट ये it was a bad day for them. I think Suryavanshi also got out on a duck, and उनकी टॉप ऑर्डर काइंड ऑफ एक्सपोज हो गए. एंड आई थिंक प्रफुल इंगे से ज्यादा मुझे सकीब हुसैन बहुत इंप्रेसिव लगा था उसी मैच में. People were really talking about प्रफुल इंगे because he picked up 3 wickets in the first over, which is obviously impressive. But I think ज्यादा एक variations बोलो या फिर what exactly the strengths are of the bowler, वो देख के I think Sakib Hussain looked like a promising talent compared to Praful Inge. I think both ended up picking a lot of wickets, but Sakib was the mainstay in that team, and Praful Inge at the other hand got exposed in quite a few games. तो आई थिंक आई स्टार्ट विद प्रफुल इंगे जो 7 मैचेस खेला और 7 मैचेस में 14 विकेट लिए, व्हिच इज आई थिंक विकेट टेकिंग एबिलिटी तो बहुत थी, बट वही ये थोड़ा सा मुझे उनादकट स्टाइल का लगता है कि जो थोड़े से कटर वटर डाल के उसको थोड़ा मारने के लिए ही टेम्प्ट्स, एंड आई थिंक थ्रू दैट ही एंड्स अप गेटिंग विकेट्स. आई थिंक इट इज स्टिल इंप्रेसिव टू पिक अप 14 विकेट्स इन 7 मैचेस, एंड आई थिंक इकोनॉमी वाज द इशू. आई थिंक 11.73 की इकोनॉमी से ही वाज bowling, and I think wicket taking ability was the only positive, and that is why maybe because they also had the option of Nitish Reddy was bowling consistently. Hinge did not have to bowl 4 overs every time. तीन ओवर बहुत मैचेस में उसने डाले, एंड आई थिंक एक विकेट टेकिंग के लिए उसको बहुत बार Cummins brought him on, and he did give him wickets. I think he was the one who got, I think, the wicket of Suryavanshi in that game, and he celebrated also. I think game तो जा चुका था shamelessly. That was a celebration that was unnecessary against him. But yeah, I think it was, I think, a good season for him, first season playing. And I don't really think that these numbers will replicate them in the future if he bowls like this. I think he had, I think, a first good season with, whatever he was bowling, I think worked. But I think if he continues to make the mistakes that he did, I think in quite a few games, he might not do as well as he did this season. That is what I think. And I think Sakib Hussain is, I think, someone who I think I really like the way he bowls, with the action, the way he, goes on one side and then the angle of the ball that comes into the, right-handed batter. I think he bowls really well. He has the Yorker, he has the cutter, and he has the ability to bowl into the stumps, which kind of makes the batsman cramp for room. And I think he's a very good, bowler for T20 cricket. I think so. Someone who's bowling toward the death more. I think having an economy of 9.45 across 11 innings is, I think, very impressive. And at that as well, picking up 15 wickets. So I think बहुत अच्छा एक विकेट टेकिंग के साथ साथ एक बहुत इकोनॉमिकल और मतलब आप अभी के इसमें तो आप डेथ बॉलर से 8 के नीचे या 8 की इकोनॉमी तो एक्सपेक्ट नहीं करते हो. दैट रेयरली वेरी वेरी रेयरली विल हैपन. So I think for someone playing their first season, I think Sakib Hussain was very good. I think he impressed me, I think, more than any bowler in that team. I think he was very dangerous. CSK के वो मैच में मैंने जब देखा, against Shivam Dubey, where he made him struggle and then got him cleaned up. I think that was a, I think, fantastic spell from him. He just picked up that one wicket, but I think बहुत अच्छी bowling उसने की थी to cramp up CSK from getting to that target, because target इतना बड़ा नहीं था. So I think that is where I think I was more impressed, because पहले मैच में तो 4 विकेट लिए and he looked good. और उसके बाद में अगले मैच में जब प्रफुल इंगे ने उसी मैच में 4 ओवर में 60 रन खाए, he ended up picking 1 for 32 and being very important bowler toward the end to make sure that they won. So I think he was, I think, a very good bowler. Obviously he also went for runs in that eliminator. सबके ही I think सबका ही बुरा दिन था वो eliminator वाला मैच. But I think overall he will definitely, they'll be happy with what he's done for them. And I think एक बहुत एक definite next year के लिए candidate in that bowling attack. He'll be there. And yeah, that is what I feel about these two. And I think then I'll come to their highest wicket taker, and that is Ishan Malinga. I think Malinga played all their matches, 15 matches में 20 wicket लिए, was constantly there in that race to the purple cap. Back and forth there was, with quite a few bowlers, and Bhuvneshwar, Anshul Kamboj इनके साथ, and he ended up picking 20 wickets. Economy was also pretty fine. I think 9.33 की economy से ही bowled, and he was bowling across. I think एक पहले जब वो आया तब एक ज्यादा से लोगों को लग रहा था एक डेथ bowler है. I think he bowled a few overs in the power play with the new ball too. Then some overs in the middle overs. Sometimes he bowled, and then toward the death as well. And he was a wicket-taking bowler. Yorker, slower ball. I think everything was pretty good. And I think he was probably one of their best bowlers. Him and Sakib Hussain, I think, were the more impressive bowlers in this attack. I think, and they were the reason why they. I think. I think just batting अगर जो जिस तरीके की है ना, वो मुझे नहीं लगता is good enough to qualify. कोई भी टीम के लिए वैसे भी bowling अच्छी होना बहुत जरूरी होता है. And I think these bowlers really helped SRS to qualify. And I think that is what I feel. I think they'll definitely want Ishan Malinga to be a bowler for them next year. I think इतना तो अच्छा परफॉर्मेंस उसने इस सीजन बहुत दिया है. एंड दैट विल ब्रिंग मी टू द टू फॉरेन बॉलर्स बाकी के जो थोड़े थोड़े मैचेस खेले. आई थिंक डेविड पेन को उन्होंने स्टार्टिंग के मैचेस में लिया. Only the first couple of matches RCB against, he picked up a couple of wickets, then wicketless against KKR, went for a lot of runs and he was dropped from the team. And after that he got injured and they got Gerard Coetzee, but उसको खिलाया नहीं. So I think David Payne just 2 matches, couple of wickets, economy 14 की थी overall, so that is why made sense also that he was dropped and then obviously injured. So nothing much. And then there was Dilshan Madhushanka, who also, I think, he just played one game, 1 for 36 in that game against Delhi. Just at one game that was there for him and did not get any opportunity apart from that. कोएट्जे जैसे मैंने बोला एक अच्छा एक ऑप्शन था उनके पास जिसको ले सकते थे शायद से, but they did not give him any opportunity in that in the campaign. And I don't think they had the spot also. I think Pat Cummins or Malinga के होते हुए और head और Klaasen जैसे मैंने बोला, there was no spot. So I think these were these were all their bowlers. I think इनकी अगर बात करें कि what were their I think tactics that they missed. I think I feel like head से एक underwhelming season था जो expected और ज़्यादा था. I think you expected one of that top four to at least one of them at least to step up and get a big inning in the game that mattered, which did not happen. लिविंगस्टोन पे पैसे आई थिंक वेस्ट करके एक अच्छा फिनिशर जो ले सकते थे, ऑलराउंडर ले सकते थे. आई थिंक ऑलराउंडर नहीं थे. नीतीश रेड्डी डिड द जॉब ऑफ एन ऑलराउंडर, बट आई थिंक ही वाज नॉट दैट गुड. एक प्रॉपर ऑलराउंडर और एक अगर होता है स्पिन बॉलिंग ऑलराउंडर अगर शायद से होता, which Livingston was the one that they thought, but I think foreigner होते हुए उसको तो ले आप वैसे भी नहीं सकते, because you had already 4 foreigners that were fixed in the 11. तो Livingston को तो आप नहीं ले पाते. So you would have probably seen it would have made more sense for them to go for an Indian option in somewhere there. They had the money and they ended up spending it on Livingston, and I think did not give him many opportunities also to kind of even though I have been critical of him, उसको prove करने के लिए आपने 2 ही मैचेस दी, उसमें ही उसने बहुत हक दिया ये तो पता है, बट अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट दे डिड नॉट गिव हिम मेनी more opportunities for Livingston to kind of make an impact. तो आई थिंक वो एक प्रॉब्लम था. आई थिंक फिनिशर का जो प्रॉब्लम था दैट इज वेयर आई थिंक इट वाज देयर. और एक स्पिनर जो आपको मिडिल ओवर्स में लगता है, आई थिंक दे वर वेरी वेरी रिलायंट ऑन देयर fast bowlers to be the wicket taking options for them, and I think that happened with them. I think Sakib Hussain, Praful, Malinga all picked up wickets, बट एक स्पिनर की जो जरूरत होती है जो मिडिल ओवर्स में आके एक इम्पैक्ट कर सकता है. उस दिन जब सूर्यवंशी सबको मार रहा था, तब यही सीम बॉलर्स जो एक ज्यादा उनके इसमें like their whatever their plans are quite similar, उसमें थोड़ा सा कुछ चेंज आने के लिए you need someone who can do something else, and I think that was not present in that team. I think spinner उनको maybe could have worked well for them. I think they were probably hoping कि अभिषेक से थोड़ी बॉलिंग हो जाए या ट्रेविस हेड से जो ज्यादा उनसे बॉलिंग तो नहीं करवाई. तो I think that I think was one issue. I think they did not have a uh, wicket taking एक middle over में spinner, but I think they'll still have, I think, a couple of youngsters that will obviously improve over the course of the next few years, and don't know if they'll get to stay in the team, but yeah, I think that is what I feel. Flat pitch पे ही जीत सकते हैं, ऐसी बैटिंग है इनकी. बैटिंग में ज्यादा सेंस नहीं है, सेंसलेस नहीं बोलूंगा मैं, बट आई थिंक दे आर समवन हु बैट ओनली वन वे. एक वन डिमेंशनल बैटिंग लाइनअप है जो बस मारना जानती है. अगर थोड़ी सी विकेट इधर उधर हो गई तो इनके लग जाते हैं, क्योंकि फिर if the ball is moving a little bit, if the bowling attack is good, then their plans don't work and then they'll throw their wickets and then it will be a collapse, and that is what has been the story. And I think आप एक ही तरीके का अगर क्रिकेट बैक करते हो, even though people praise it, captain की बहुत अच्छा है, this is good from the captain, from the management, that they are backing one style of play and they are sticking with it, even if it backfires they're ready to take the blame for it, and but they'll still continue to back it. आई थिंक ये बस बोलने के लिए तो ठीक है, आपको लगता है कि यार बहुत अच्छा सा ट्रस्ट दिखा रहे हैं, बैटिंग लाइन आपको बताया है, क्लियर क्लैरिटी बहुत है कि क्या करना है, बट अगर आप प्लानिंग ही जो कर रहे हो, even though you are sticking with your plan, if the plan is not completely correct, it is not a good thing. You need to have something that I think, even though T20 cricket now demands batting a particular way, where you play more aggressive cricket because more bigger targets are getting chased down as well, and अगर आप पहले बैटिंग कर रहे हो तो you need to get that big score or whatever it is, you still, there is still sense remaining in the sport. Even though it is becoming more and more and more favorable for the batter, there is still are occasions where the pitch will not favor the batters, and that is the time where you need batters who can play on those pitches as well. अगर आपकी बैटिंग ऐसे ही लोगों से भरी हुई है जो ऐसे पिचेस पे ही खेल सकते हैं जहां पे उनको ज्यादा पिच में कुछ है नहीं बॉलर के लिए, बॉल बस आने वाला है, अच्छे से बाउंस होके बैट पे आएगा, और हमने टाइमिंग है, पावर है, अभी के जमाने के प्लेयर में जो अलग अलग टाइप के शॉट्स हैं, दैट ऑल इज देयर एंड वी आर रिलायंट ऑन दैट, एंड जब वो ऐसा पिच है तब हम बहुत रन बना सकते हैं. बट अगर थोड़ा सा इधर उधर हो गया या फिर बॉलिंग अटैक अच्छा आया तो फिर नथिंग इज देयर. एंड आई थिंक टॉप ऑर्डर पे दे वर रिलायंट. आई थिंक नीचे के बैट्समैन में इतना कुछ था नहीं. आई थिंक नो रिलायबल प्लेयर वाज देयर इन दैट लोअर ऑर्डर. एवरीबडी वाज इन एक्सपीरियंस काइंड ऑफ, एंड आई थिंक टॉप फोर से अगर किसी से रन नहीं बनते हैं तो यू न्यू कि लोअर ऑर्डर डिड नॉट हैव द पोटेंशियल टू टेक द गेम जस्ट बाय देमसेल्व्स. एंड आई थिंक टॉप ऑर्डर पे इतना जो दे वर यू नो they really wanted that top order to always contribute for them. I think I think one or two of them, because all of these players, are experienced, are world class, in they play for their international team. They, and I mean, Klaasen obviously retired, but I think these players are someone who have been playing for quite a while now, and I think because of that they were able to manage their way to kind of qualifying. But I think जब ऐसे होता है कि अभी प्रेशर आ गया, और ऐसे भी नहीं कि उनको एक डिफिकल्ट पिच मिला. सूर्यवंशी ने जिस पिच पे वो 90 वॉट एवर ही मेड, उसी पिच पे इन लोगों को भी बैटिंग मिली थी. आई नो दैट इट इज अ नॉकआउट गेम, देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ प्रेशर, एंड बड़ा टारगेट आने के बाद इट इज व्हाट हैपेंस. बट आई थिंक इफ यू आर हैविंग अ टीम दैट इज नोन फॉर डूइंग दिस थिंग्स, यू एक्सपेक्ट देम टू डू इट ऑन द बिग डे. अगर ऐसे ही आप कोई तो लीग मैच में अपने होम ग्राउंड पे पहले बैटिंग करके आके आप 250 बना रहे हो, तो उसमें इतना कुछ है नहीं. वो बैटिंग आपकी पता है हमको कि वो क्या कर सकती है, जरूरत है तब क्या किया, कुछ नहीं. So I think that is what I feel. That is one tactic that I think I don't know when they'll realize that there is still sensible batting is still one thing that is there, that is needed, but they don't really seem to care about it. They are they believe that playing this way will will give them success, which it clearly is not. But yeah, and I think ऐसे ही मुझे लगता है कि ये तो थोड़ा सा है. पैट कमिंस की मैं थोड़ा सा, मैंने जैसे उसके इसमें बोला कि आई थिंक एज अ कैप्टन, because he's experienced, he's won the World Cup, he's won the World Test Championship, ये सब है, but T20 is not his forte. It's not his best, format. तो उसमें as a captain, he takes one spot of a foreigner. I don't think that there was any other foreigner who would have come in and made a bigger impact or anything like that right now. But I think Pat Cummins से जो expected था कि एक captain से आप जो expect करते हो, और some world class bowler जो है वो, whatever you expect from him, that did not happen. I think that was one area which I think was a little problematic. एक लोअर ऑर्डर में स्मरण रविचंद्रन कौन था, उसको इतने मैचेस क्यों मिले मुझे नहीं पता. आई थिंक टुवर्ड द एंड he clearly was struggling, उसके रन नहीं बन रहे थे, not even like he was getting एक दो मार रहा था और उसमें फिर मारते मारते आउट हो रहा था. He was not really able to play attacking shots which you want from that kind of a position play. So I think Aniket Verma के पास I think they should have gone back to, and I don't know why they did not. I think all rounder और एक missing था जैसे मैंने बोला, and I think that was what I feel कि ये सब चीजें हुई. Players especially जैसे मैंने बोला अभिषेक शर्मा वगैरह जो है, जो ऐसे मतलब ओकेजन बड़ा या फिर अच्छा ओपोनेंट हुआ तो ये सब गायब होते. And this has been the case with him especially for a while, always has been. So I think that is where I think they struggle. I think positives be hai. Obviously, qualifying is a big thing. It takes a lot, and you qualify. That is obviously a good thing, and I think there were these were contributors toward that. But I think like I said, वो एक जो आखिरी का step है from qualifying to winning, वो वाले step के लिए you need more than what they are, and that is very very evident. I think they are not a team that can win the trophy with this kind of cricket, and that is what happened. I think positives that will take is that the top order is still you know उनमें अगर थोड़ा सा आप सेंस डाल सकते हो तो बैटिंग में टैलेंटेड प्लेयर तो आपके पास है. यंगस्टर अच्छे बॉलर मिल गए, स्पिनर्स भी मिल गए, फास्ट बॉलर्स भी मिल गए. ईशान मलिंगा, हिंगे, शिवांग कुमार, हर्ष दुबे, साकिब हुसैन, अच्छे एक बॉलिंग अटैक मिल गए. Nitish Reddy, I think as an all-rounder contributed more for you than he had before. So I think there were obviously positives, and I think they'll have to kind of go into the auction that they'll when they go, and obviously Livingston will be a player that will get released, and from that they'll probably want to kind of get some kind of a replacement in that position, maybe an Indian or even a foreigner if they are getting trying to get backups for say a Pat Cummins or whatever it is. So I think that is what I feel they need. I think एक नए बॉल का एक bowler चाहिए. I think Praful Inge, like I said, obviously it was a good first season for him, but I think I don't know how well it will continue for him in the next season. So I think that is obviously a thing. And yeah, I think that is what I feel about them. I think वो एक जो मैंने जैसे बोला एक आखिर का जो एक step है towards the trophy, वो वाले के लिए I think they still need to do more. I think they'll be happy that they qualified, and I think the bowling that was I could see that this bowling attack will struggle and they won't qualify with it. तो उसमें जो उन्होंने changes करके जो young players को लेके, those players I think did well for them, which worked well. So I think they'll be happy with that, and I think going into the next season they will have certain things that they now know what they need to do from the start of the tournament, which was not there this year. So I think that is what I feel about Sunrisers. और ऊपर से थोड़ा सा ओवर कॉन्फिडेंस से भी लगे. आई थिंक जब वो एक ईशान किशन बोलो या अभिषेक शर्मा बोलो, जो थोड़ा सा एक जो ऐसे एक आया है कि हम इंडिया के लिए खेले हुए प्लेयर है, वर्ल्ड कप जीत के आए हैं, वो थोड़ा सा एक एक जो आता है वो उनमें दिख रहा था क्लियरली. एंड आई थिंक दैट इज व्हाट आई थिंक टुवर्ड दैट पॉइंट इट काइंड ऑफ व्हाट एक्सपोज कि आप इंडिया के लिए खेलते हो, बट आप एक 16-15 साल के बच्चे से तो आप वो जब खेला तब आपका कुछ हुआ नहीं. So I think, that is that is what I feel about them. I think still a pretty good season. Ending up qualifying is obviously a good thing, and I think they'll like I said, positives, negatives, everything they'll take into the next season and will want to do better than what they did. So yeah, I think that is what I feel. I think they need to be a little more humble. कि आप किससे पंगा ले रहे हो ये भी थोड़ा सा देखना चाहिए. Even the owner I think is a pretty stupid woman. So I think those things I think जो है that is obviously something that will get them. I think this is all apart from the actual cricketing standpoint. But yeah, this is what I feel about Sunrisers, and I think I'll talk about a team that knocked them out in the eliminator, and that is the Rajasthan Royals next.